This is the Motion EVO City. It's a decidedly large electric bike. It only comes in one size, large. The seat tube right here is 21.5 inches, and it's 24-inch reach. So riding this thing, I've raised the seat. It's kind of set up for someone who's the proper size. I'm 5'9", and I'm struggling a little bit to reach the pedals, but because there's this adjustable stem up here, I've been able to raise it a little bit. Got the riser bars. Feels pretty comfortable. A little bit of a reach getting over this, especially because there's the rack. You might swing your leg over. But really it's for someone who's maybe 6 feet or a little bit taller and struggles to find a bike that's the right size for them. Complementing the larger frame are these 28 by 1.5 inch tires. These are pretty traditional, like city style, kind of the hybrid tire tread going on there. Pretty decent. They aren't going to be as comfortable as like an off-road tire, but of course they're going to be more efficient. They're going to be quieter, and they've got the reflective sidewall stripe going on, as well as a little dynamo hub up here that powers this Roxio light, and we've got an integrated rear light as well. Lineo by Spinninga. Love that. And you've got fenders, plastic, pretty standard, but they've got double support arms up there with like kind of finger adjust. So there's a lot of little extras that are done right, in my opinion, including the gel saddle. That's going to add some comfort, and the suspension fork. This isn't anything too special, but it does have lockout. I'm guessing this is an SR Sun Tour. They've done some good branding here, so it really looks nice on the frame in terms of like paint, but they've kind of covered the stats about that, so I can't give you the full feedback. Also, the wires are integrated. Really like that. I got a kickstand back there. It's a good bike, and Easy Motion's whole thing is like the electric bike that doesn't look like one. And they've really focused on giving you an awesome drivetrain. We've got 3 sprockets up front, and then in the back we've got 8, so it's 24 speed, which means you have triggers on the left and right. And the way their display's set up, it's kind of easy to reach and easy to see while you're riding, even though you have triggers. A lot of times this gets kind of crowded on electric bikes that aren't as purpose-built, so I like that about Easy Motion. Ergonomic grips, again, matching. They're nothing too special. You don't have lockers or anything, but they're good enough for riding around town. Hydraulic disc brakes, that's another big point, like a selling point for me on some of these electric bikes. Like, you've got power, you've got speed, maybe a little bit of extra weight because you tend to be a little bit heavier if you're taller, so having hydraulic disc brakes is great. 180 millimeter rotor in the front, 160 in the rear. That's pretty good stopping power. It's the same setup that they have on a lot of their mountain bikes. And then by elevating the braking element here, instead of having like a rim brake, you're not going to scratch those rims, and they've painted them black along with the spokes, so everything here kind of blends in, including the motor. This is a 500 watt internally geared hub motor from Dapu. Okay, so there are a bunch of different companies that sell these hub motors. Dapu is a little bit more zippy in my experience. It's a quality motor. It's relatively quiet. I feel like they made a good decision on that. The trade-off that they've made from some other electric bikes is that instead of a cadence sensor, they've used a torque sensor. That's this plate right here, so it senses like how hard you're pushing, and that means sometimes you have to work a little bit harder, but it feels more responsive and more fluid as well. There's a little bit of a delay and cutoff when you're riding, so you're pedaling and it eases out. It doesn't happen quite as immediately, but one thing they've done to sort of support you as a rider and put you in control is they've got brake lever inhibitors. So anytime you pull the brakes, it's sending a signal to the system like, hey, they don't want the motor to be going right now, so it's going to cut a little bit faster. I like that. I also really like that you've got some more utility back here with a rack, 25 kilogram max weight, that's about 55 pounds, bungee cord included, more reflectors. So again, safety is a theme here, utility is a theme. It's just kind of loaded up. And they might have had a chain cover or something on this one. You can see a little support arm here, but then they've got this plastic kind of a guide thing going on that your pants will slough over. It's pretty decent, and I can't say one way or the other what the final production build will have. I'm at Easy Motion's headquarters in Southern California. I like checking out some of their different bikes, riding them around. And this one actually does not have a functioning controller, unfortunately. So I wanted to give a review and share my insights because I've ridden a bunch of other electric bikes just like this, and I was able to weigh it and everything. It's about 59 pounds, so it's not super light, but it's a larger frame. So all in all, I'm impressed with the bike. I like some of the extras, but I don't want you to count on everything I'm saying here being perfectly accurate, including the possibility of a chain cover, because I'm just not sure. And people here are giving me feedback about how they use these as kind of production prototypes. And so I guess going on from there, like that it's got a kickstand and that they've done the unique quick release arms, front and rear. So a lot of times on electric bikes that have hub motors, that's a real challenge. Like you want to change the tire on the go without carrying a bunch of extra tools. These quick release arms are one way to do that. And they're just sort of spring loaded. So you pull out and you can pivot it and then you lock it in and you can crank it back. So it's a really sweet system, but because there's a torque sensor in here, you know, it's tougher to kind of dial it in perfectly. I still tend to go to my bicycle shop, my electric bike dealer, to get help when I'm doing tune-ups myself, because, you know, of course it comes with instructions, but it's just a little bit more sensitive. This is a responsive system, but it's just something that takes a little bit more fine-tuning. 31.6 millimeter seat post diameter. So given that this is a kind of a hardtail and that you might be commuting further, especially because this now has a 48 volt 10.5 amp hour battery pack that's half a kilowatt hour, you know, you've got power here, but you've also potentially got range depending on what assist level you use. It's just something to keep in mind, like comfort. Yes, you have a suspension fork, but I've really been enjoying like Thudbuster or Body Float. Putting something like that on this can give you, it can just dampen the vibration, right, and put you at ease, like your back and neck, if you are a commuter, you're using this every single day. I wanted to point out that the tubing here is a little bit fatter than I'm used to, right? It doesn't look quite standard. It might not fit on all of the clip-on panniers. It should fit on kind of most. You know, they've got the bungee thing here, but that's just something to be aware of or conscious of if you're at the bike shop and you're checking one of these out considering making a purchase. Just make sure that your panniers will fit with that first. I did a little side video just showing how the display panel works and talking about a few other features, so I'm going to go ahead and cut to that. So I'm inside charging. I thought this would be the perfect time to go through the display panel. It's the same for all of the Easy Motion bikes that use kind of the proprietary down tube and hub motor design, not the Bosch bikes, and this is only for 2014, 2015, 2016. So if we look at this display panel, you know, it's nice that you can remove it. First of all, you can pop it off like that, carry it around with you. And if you upgrade to this little Bluetooth module, you can pop that in, sync it with your phone, and then use your phone as a display. And it's got GPS, route guidance, and in fact, I might cut to that and just show you what those features are. So I'm borrowing a phone and I'm inside so you can see the screen a little bit better, but if we launch the BH Premium app, this is where you can adjust your settings. You've got a user profile, which includes all of your information, like your name, if you want, your weight, your height, your age, that kind of thing. You can switch between units too, which is neat, kind of metric or imperial. Bike profile, which is very cool. I mean, they go from wheel size, crank length, battery capacity, sensor connection, like the TMM4 torque sensing, and even like locate my bike settings. So you'll need that if you upgrade for like the theft prevention. For $249, it mounts kind of at the base of the battery interface. It's very cool because then it's locked in physically by the battery and it allows you to track it down. In addition to that $249 accessory, you still need to get like a SIM card, and it seems like most SIM cards would work. I think they're like $15, kind of like you'd use for a cell phone, but apparently it's not like a subscription service, or at least that's not the information I got. And then connections, status, system diagnostic, it can kind of go through and troubleshoot. So that's the background for setup. And then ride is really where it's at. This is like the GPS enabled feature. Manual is just, hey, I want to go here, and it's a map and it tells you, just like Google Maps or Waze or any of those. Automatic is kind of another level of cool. It basically senses how much battery you have, how much you're using, and it automatically adjusts so that you can arrive without running out of juice. I really like that. I think that's cool. And then automatic is also very cool. BH, you know, it's this company that's been around since 1909, and they make a lot of fitness equipment. It's not just bicycles or electric bikes. And one of the areas that they also make, I guess, would do a lot of products in is exercise equipment, and some of those have heart rate monitors and different sensors and stuff. So they've integrated that really well here, where you can say, hey, I don't want to exceed 155 or 140 or whatever beats per minute. Automatically give me power when I need it. So it's like you're getting exercise, but you're not exhausting yourself. You can go out there and ride it just like it's an exercise bike, but in the real world. I think that's pretty fantastic. I think Polaris and Falco have done similar things in the past, but BH, I think that, you know, they've really mastered it with some of their exercise equipment. So to see it on this app here is just very cool. And then this is what the map looks like. You can kind of tap and do a starting point and then an ending point and change the resistance level and everything. It's a sweet app, you know, if you take a little bit of time to dig into it, and if you get that $149 accessory. The only complaint I have on that, again, is just that then you don't really have a display. Like, this kind of becomes your display, and I feel like, I don't know, I wouldn't always want this there. There's no USB port to plug in, so your phone is going to be connected via Bluetooth, and by the way, it seems like it's ANT Plus compatible with the whole heart rate thing. But you know, this is there now. It's a little bit big. Maybe I just want to glance over and see how fast I'm going, and what I'm looking at here might be like the GPS map thing. So I don't know. Maybe there's some refinement that could happen, but it's cool to see them introducing an app like this. Okay, so we're back at the normal display right here. I love that it comes with a little pouch, kind of keeps it from getting scuffed up. As you can see, this one might have been put face down on a table, and it's a little bit gnarly, but working pretty well. If we hold the power button, it does take a little bit longer, so just keep holding it, be patient. Kind of boots up and gives us some information about the bike. The first thing you see here is speed in miles per hour. And then over here, we've got total, distance, time, and top speed. So that's like all-time top speed, 11 miles per hour, awesome. And then we've got just this trip. So this trip, how far have we gone? How long have we been riding? And then what's our top speed? And then there's this other setting here. It's like M to go. I feel like that's a range thing, but I haven't quite figured it out. Down here we can see a battery level indicator. 3 out of 5 bars right now, about 55%. I like that they include the percentage as well. It's just a little bit more precise. And then assist level. We're at the highest right now at 100%, but we can arrow down to 70, 50, 30, or 0. And that's kind of cool because their bikes, they're designed to be more like a bicycle with more gears and just really set up to almost look like a regular bicycle too. So riding them around tends to be pretty efficient. It's nice to just use this as a cycle computer, potentially to power the lights if the model has that. Okay, so to enter the settings, what we would do is hold plus and minus for a couple seconds. Now it would let us select our wheel size. We could arrow up or arrow down. This one's a 29er actually, so I'm gonna arrow up a little bit. 29, and hit power, and it kind of locks it in. Unit, miles per hour, but of course we could go to kilometers per hour. And I'm going to lock it in at miles. And then this snow setting. So this is kind of cool. Right now, this one, I'm looking at the Evo Snow 29 Pro, and of course we want all the wheels going all the time, and that's kind of a cool setting. It gives you some extra traction. If we arrow down, just front wheel drive, so it's going to be more efficient, maybe extend your range, but not give you quite as good of traction. And then rear, that's the 350 watt motor, and that one's going to give you just kind of the traditional ride, akin to some of the older Evos and even the Neo models. So 350 watt, 250 watt on this particular model, or you can turn it just off. And this, I think this just defaults to rear wheel drive. So I think that's a little bit redundant with rear and off, seeming to do the same things, but regardless, that's what that does. So we'll lock it in, and then we can select the battery size. So it's funny, sometimes on these demo bikes, I've been seeing that says 8.7 amp hours. Sometimes it's a little bit less. You can actually find that written right on the battery pack. So if we come back over to this one, that's not on the bike, and we flip it around like this, we can see that it says 48 volts, 8.7 amp hours down here. So that's the amp hours. So we'd go back to the display and lock it in at 8.7. And now we're back to wheel size. So once you've done that, you're all set and you're like, yep, I don't want to change anything. I'm ready to kind of lock it. Hold the power button again for quite a while. And that had me concerned. I thought it was going to shut the thing off, but it doesn't. It just sort of leaves that menu. And now we're back at the main display. Oh, and this is backlit, so if you hold down, see how it comes to life like that, and you get the little icon right there? That would also activate our lights if we were riding something like this over here. Got the EVO City. It's got the built-in lights. So that's pretty nice. Nice little extra feature. So this is the Motion EVO charger. Works for any of the bikes. It's 2 amp output, which is kind of standard. I like that you can unplug the wall side if you want to, just to make it a little bit cleaner if you're packing it in your backpack, that kind of thing. It gives you a little bit of extra length as well. You can see if we follow this all the way down here, we've got the end connected that plugs right into the battery pack. So this is cool for if it's a really cold or really hot day and you want to bring the battery inside, or maybe you're charging at work. So you bring that inside, you plug it in with the charger and top it off. Really love that they've got an LED indicator on it so you can tell how full it is in case you haven't ridden for a while. It might slowly drop over time. But then if you want to, you can charge the battery right on the bike. And that's what I tend to do. I'll leave my bike, you know, in my room. I don't tend to park it outside just because it's a little bit more sensitive with all the different components and it's kind of a high value product. So in order to do that, you disconnect the little dongle, just try not to lose that. And now this end, you can go ahead and plug directly into the bike right there on the chainstay on the left hand side. But in order to get it in, you kind of have to push it in, line it up right, and then there's this little wings on the side and you've got to tighten it down kind of like half a turn and it kind of locks it into place. So it's cool because it feels, you know, solid once it's in. However, what I've noticed about these bikes is that if you push it back, like maybe you're trying to get it out of the way, you push it back, the crank arms kind of slowly go back, and that's what you don't want to do because it's going to break it off because it's really connected well. Same thing with the keys. A lot of the keys kind of fold and they stay mostly out of the way, but it just seems like, you know, there's a lot here that could get damaged with those crank arms. Even the kickstands, a couple times, you can see this one has some abrasions on the side of it. That's because people were moving the bikes around like this, backing it up. You can see that crank arm coming down and then right there, you know. And so it stops the bike, but it's also potentially enough force if you really pushed it to kind of bend or break that off. So you just want to be conscious both when you're charging this about not losing that, and then also about not breaking off the key, the charging port, or the kickstand. Another really cool option that they're selling now is this neoprene sleeve. It's almost like a wetsuit material, and it's designed to keep the battery a little bit warmer, or at least protect it from the cold. So they say anytime it's below 60 degrees outside, this is going to help extend your range, potentially by up to 30%, just by keeping the battery a little bit warmer. And I feel like there's some caveats there. I mean, it must be like if the battery was stored inside and it's already warm, if the whole bike was stored inside and it's already warm. If you leave this in your garage and the bike is super cold overnight, like that's kind of hard on the cells, and it's already going to be cold. I don't feel like this is going to, it's going to just insulate the cold. So I would try to keep that at sort of a neutral, cool, dry location, and then potentially get yourself one of these. It's 35 bucks and it's just got a zipper on it. So I'll go ahead and try to mount that real quick. It's almost like a real wetsuit. Not super easy to do. Just a little bit of screwing around. It's a pretty handsome accessory. I don't think I've seen anything like this on any other electric bikes. That's cool. It's got the branding and everything. Apparently, they're pretty popular in Canada and some of the Scandinavian countries where it gets cold, and people are actually trying to make their own out of this different materials and stuff. And I haven't tested. I'm here in Southern California at the BH North America headquarters, hanging out in their ginormous storage warehouse, checking out all the new models for 2016. I just think that's cool. Wanted to call out, give you a close-up on that, and it should work with most of their models, at least the Evo models. It's not going to work with the Easy Go models because they have the little pouch-style backpack, nor will it work with the Bosch system because, as you can see, it's sort of an externally mounted battery pack. But yeah, for the other ones, that's what it looks like. Well, there we go. I was going to hop on this thing and film just what it's like to ride it around as a bicycle, but again, because it is not a production build, it's going to be a little bit difficult to activate the motor and give you the full sense of what it sounds like, what it looks like. You can read and watch one of my other Easy Motion reviews where, you know, I actually test it. Right there is the battery charging port. I love that you can charge on the frame. I love that the battery's removable as well, so you can kind of park this outside, being that it's a bigger bike if you need to, but you can still charge it. And I love the bell. Okay. There we go. It's really not too difficult to pedal around, even just as a bicycle. You know, I've got the kind of the upright body position going here. Even though this is a little bit large for my frame, I'm not struggling too much. Smooth brakes. I think that's it. That's the Easy Motion EVO City, their larger bike. I've had fun checking it out. Sorry that it's not complete, given that it's the production prototype. But if you have more questions or maybe some feedback, chime in on the video comments, or head on back to the site ElectricBikeReview.com, where I'll list out some of the specs and other information points that I've discovered while reviewing this. Ride safe.